Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, episode 188. Our guest this week is a retro gamer on Twitch, a game dev, a podcaster, and they have just released Day of the Sandwich, which I played today, and it was delightful. We have FractalMindMike. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Day of the Sandwich. Clearly a play on Day of the Tentacle, a fantastic game that I very much love, and obviously you do too.
Yeah, I love that game. It's actually funny because I only played it for the first time about 2.5 years ago, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because the point-and-click adventures really seem to be your bread and butter.
That's what it seems like, yeah, and it's not entirely on purpose, but I do love them. I've developed a huge love for them over the last 3 years, for sure.
Well, I would have thought it was much earlier, although, to be fair, I guess I don't even know. I'm unfamiliar with this game, but I thought one of your first loves was Mystery House by Sierra.
Yeah, Mystery House was the very first adventure game that I ever played. Very first graphic adventure. I didn't know what it was called. I found out in 2017. I posted on Reddit, tip of my joystick subreddit. I said, like, I remember this game, here's an image, and I don't remember what it's called. And somebody's like, oh, that's Mystery House, and posted like an image, and I was like, oh, that's it. Yeah. So I had played that at school, and I was like, I would think about that game like all the time over my life. And I was like, finally, I'm gonna find out what this game is called and play it. And so I found out what it was called, but I didn't actually play it. I ended up playing it for the first time since I was a kid on stream. I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago or so. Maybe a bit longer ago.
But it sounds like that didn't fully kick off your point-and-click love then, if you say maybe 3 years ago is when that got going.
Yeah, so I started streaming about that time, 3 years ago, and I had just gone through some medical stuff, which meant I had this vestibular issue. And I couldn't really play FPS games or anything because it made me too dizzy. And I was just like, I'll play adventure games. I've been meaning to do this for years. Like, some of the ones that I absolutely loved were like The Dig, Full Throttle, and a few other games like that. So I had playing a handful, but for the most part, my gaming was like RPGs and FPSs and stuff like that.
Right. So Day of the Sandwich, first thing, you turn it on, Moonlight Sonata, which I always love because it reminds me of Earthworm Jim 2. There's a level in Earthworm Jim 2, they play that song, and then when I was in high school, a friend and I, someone like brought that in as a presentation or whatever for a music class we were doing. And this was very rude of us, we shouldn't have done it, but we kept going, ammo as it played, because that's from the game.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can understand.
Other than that, though, Delphine, your main character, is an amalgamation of the 3 Day of the Tentacle characters, Hoagie, Laverne, and Bernard, right?
Right, that's what I tried to do that, yeah.
Why Delphine? Does that name, is there any significance there?
There's another studio who made adventure games called Delphine Software. You might be familiar with some of their work, I think. I think Future Wars was like one of the early ones, if I remember correctly.
Cool, so just an ode to them?
Yeah, a little bit of an ode to that side of adventure gaming. They sort of did like the cinematic platformer thing as well.
You made this game...
I really should check my notes, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
You made this game all on stream too. It was 15 days, and you were streaming, and like, what's that like? Were people giving you pointers? Were they giving you recommendations, or how does that work?
For the most part, I was just sort of doing my own thing, and just like looking at the chat and reading, talking, that kind of thing. I'm trying to, like, yeah, they definitely was like a bit of back and forth with some of the like ideas and jokes and design and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was just like hanging out and trying to keep people engaged a bit. But I would just spend hours just looking down at the tablet to draw a picture or whatever. So it was, that's why I started a new channel for the dev streams, because I wanted to be able to just focus on the work and not stress about like, oh, I need to make sure that people are entertained.
Do you find, like, is that a nice break when you're working, or does it kind of distract you when you'd rather be really getting in there?
I think it's pretty good. It's not a bad way to work. It gives you I think it puts you in a bit of a motivated space where you're like, okay, I'm in front of a bunch of people, so I better not just slack off and like read, Twitter or something. But at the same time, there's people there to have a chat to when you are like sort of between like thoughts or something like that as well. So that kind of helps you keep motivated and like talk things through. And like with many industries, like talking things out, talking problems or ideas out can help you solidify them and come to conclusions that you might not if you're just doing it all in your head. So having chat to actually talk to is a very powerful tool for just being able to stay productive, I think, as well. So, I mean, that's for me. It might not work that way for other people.
One thing while playing the game, I was laughing at myself. Like, I've played plenty of point and clicks. I love them. But I'm so conditioned by new games that I was pressing Alt a lot, like as if that would highlight everything that I could interact with. And of course, it does not.
Yeah, there's no highlighting. I did think about it, but I was like, I got to just streamline the process here. So it didn't happen.
I feel like, too, maybe point and clicks, it's about the finding the thing, right?
Yeah, certainly in like older ones, that was definitely like a technique that people used as like, oh, this will be a challenging puzzle. I will hide one object on the bookshelf that you have to click on, and I'm going to call out Laura Bow, the Dagger of Amon-Ra, as that game with Crime and Punishment sitting on a shelf. It's like impossible to find it. I spent way too long looking for that freaking book. I hated it. So yeah, highlighting hotspots would be ideal.
Are there any plans for more in this world? Like it plays like a prologue to a much larger story.
It does, and that was kind of intentional. That I was like, I want this to feel like a bigger space. Like, hey, you're waking up, you're going to go on an adventure, but first you need breakfast, kind of thing. And I just thought that would make sense to give the adventurer somewhere else to be going and doing. So I did that, and having made it and seeing people respond to it really positively and getting a lot of positive feedback on the production in general, I was like, wow, I did not expect that. So the idea of continuing in that world makes a lot of sense. I put a lot of hours into the character and animations and the design, so I think I'd like to revisit it. Yeah, there's not solid concrete plans, but I've definitely thought about how I would integrate what I've already done into something new. Yeah, maybe even redesign the puzzles for Day of the Sandwich into a bigger adventure game where it's no longer just about making a sandwich and it's just a subplot, maybe.
Is a bacon sandwich, an egg and bacon sandwich, is that something that you yourself would tend to make in the morning?
I would like to. I don't tend to do that often. Usually if I'm going to have like a cooked breakfast like that, I'll just throw on some eggs and bacon. I don't usually do the sandwich thing. Right. But yeah, sometimes I definitely made a sandwich just like that.
I hope I'm not spoiling. If I am, please, I'll...
Oh, no, that's fine.
All right. I know you've said that you've made several games. You haven't necessarily released a lot of them. You've kind of, sort of got Grid Cannon Evolution, but would this be like the first like completed game you've released?
This is the first one that is released that people can actually access and download today. Yes.
So how's that feel?
I did release some older stuff many years ago under a different name that I am sure no longer exists, which I'm happy about, I think, in the long term. But yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
Just how does it feel, to get something out there that people can play?
Better than I thought it would. I did think that I was going to make something simple and just put it out and then move on to the next thing. But I knew that there would also be some transition of like, okay, I've put the thing out, I need to support it. And I had to do bug fixes and talk to people and stuff like that. But now that it's actually out there and it's like fairly stable, I feel really, really positive about it. Normally at this stage, I would kind of start feeling... maybe even a little earlier, I would have felt like, I probably shouldn't have released this, and I would delete it because it's not polished enough. Like, I'm constantly thinking of things that I should have done better. And, like, I didn't really finish doing all the background art the way I wanted to. I didn't really finish doing the character animations smoothed out as the way I wanted. There's ideas I had that I didn't do. I wanted to do close-ups of when you're interacting with items. So like have like, you know, when you throw an egg in the pan, you can see the egg going into the pan and cooking, that kind of stuff. But I knew at the time when I was making it that I had to keep it a limited output because I wanted to do it quickly. So I had to make decisions to cut those ideas out. And normally, in the past, like certainly before I started streaming, if I release something like that, I'd be like, it's not good enough, and I'd take it down. And then I'd want to polish it, or I'd start to feel bad about it and not work on it again. But streaming, to segue to that a little bit, has completely changed my outlook. I always had a lot of anxiety about putting my stuff out there, so I'm very creative. I like creating stuff, but I've always felt nervous about sharing it. And I don't know why that is exactly. Some people try and associate it with imposter syndrome, but I feel like it's not quite there. It's something a little different. But yeah, I don't know. Streaming really changed my life because when you stream something, the audience is already there. They've already seen it. You can't take it back, and you just have to move forward. And so I just, focusing on improving my streams has really helped me to just come to terms with like, hey, sometimes people like it, sometimes people don't, and that's okay. And you don't have to do everything perfectly every single time. Like you can't do take 2 on stream. You have to just, that's what you did, move on to the next thing. So yeah, it taught me a lot, and it helped me get to a point where I'm actually very comfortable releasing the game. So now I feel really great. Ultimately, I'm really, really proud of the work that I did, and I think that people will enjoy it, and the people who have played it have told me how much they've enjoyed it. Lots of people pointing out the references and saying like, hey, I really liked how you did this or that in the game. So yeah, it's been a really positive experience.
Speaking of what you do live on Twitch, and I guess not really having a take 2, your podcast, you, for about a year now, have had other streamers on, including, we were talking before we started recording, you had Duke Donuts on. I think, was it your last one?
Yeah, I think Duke was my last, yeah.
Who I simply know as the 70 bits oh boy guy. But you've also had Ash Said Hi, who, friend of the show, I've had her on before. You can't, I don't do live, as you know, we're recording. You do live, how does that go for you? Is that anxiety building, or how does that work?
I just love talking to people. So the first time, I'd been talking about doing it for ages. The first time I had a guest on, I got Dr. CDCS on, who's a good friend of mine and has been a huge inspiration for me with streaming. And I was just like, hey, do you want to jump on and we'll do the podcast that I've been talking about doing for ages? He's like, yeah, sure, I got some time. So we did that. And I was just like, okay, I've started. I have to keep doing it now. So yeah, having guests on and stuff like that, it's just like, it's awesome. I love talking to people, asking them questions about what makes them tick. And it's very much a conversational podcast. I don't have like, I'm sure, prepared questions or something. It's not very journalistic. It's just, I do have topics I want to cover, but I'm not like, looking at my sheet of questions and going like, okay, I got to ask about that next or something. It's just very much just having a chat. So we'll sit there, and the longest one I think is Duke Donuts, and I don't know how many hours that was. It was like very, very long. McCall 45 was also a very long podcast. Retro Island Gaming, another long one. So just lots of long podcasts with people who I genuinely just want to sit down and chat with them. And putting it in the format of the podcast does direct the conversation a little bit, but it's still, I think, pretty raw, and I think that's what people like to see. The only problem with that is editing. I haven't had the guts to go in and spend the hours it would take to edit down those long podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were saying before we started again that Duke Donuts one was maybe like 8 hours. That's a lot of editing.
Yeah, I think I release it in 4 2-hour episodes or something like that on my YouTube channel. So,
have you, what have you learned while doing it? Anything cool that you were like, oh, I'm really glad I did this. I've taken away some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think a deeper knowledge of just like people who who are like my colleagues or friends or whatever you want to like. I think it's just you learn a lot from just like people's approach to things and stuff like that. And I think I can apply that to my own stuff, or maybe other people can apply it. So, recalling specific scenarios out of all of that, there's so many hours of content there. It's pretty difficult to pull out a specific scenario, but I know for sure that I've learned stuff like, you know, how I present stuff on my stream has changed because of that. I've also talked to game developers like Julia Minamata, and that's been really fun too, because that's like obviously something else that's a big interest for me. So talking to them and seeing like how they approach their processes and stuff like that has helped too. Yeah, I don't know if that's a perfect answer, but
no, that's good. Yeah, is it something you're going to keep going with?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to do it this year. I wanted to focus on game devs, so I've been stringing along one particular guy for a little while. Like, it's going to be soon. I got to do this last thing, and it's this month we're going to do it. So we're running out of this month though, so I got to do it soon. But he worked on Linux ports for the remaster of like Day of the Tentacle and Full Throttle and stuff like that. So I would love to like pick his brain on that side of things, as well as like he's making his own games. So yeah, just like you know, he's big into using Godot game engine, which I've only tinkered with so far. So I want to like, you know, have a conversation about all those sort of things and whatever else might come up too, because, you know, maybe he's got some really good life advice, or he knows like what the best cheese that Tasmania produces is, or something like that. I don't know. There's always something.
Watching your YouTube channel, one thing I checked out was you unsealing Earthsiege 2, and
oh yeah,
I didn't realize you say in the video the same people who made Earthsiege made one of my all-time favorites. It's a game I feel like nobody cares about, Star Siege Tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. If that got popular again, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. What an amazing game.
But you were what I found so interesting, you were so meticulous in how you opened it. Why not just tear the film off? Like you took like an X-Acto knife and, you know, I know why you don't want to cut the box, but why not just like rip it with your hands?
If the shrink wrap's like really decent condition and it's not like, you know, damaging the box, I often just leave it sealed, because it does help protect the box for longer. But if I want to open it and it's in that state, I might as well just like leave it on there. It's kind of like a protective film sleeve, at least, because I shelve all my games. I don't do the hard plastic cases or anything like that. So leaving a plastic sleeve on it isn't a bad idea.
I see. Had you just acquired it? What made you unseal it that day?
I think I had that game for a while, actually. If I remember correctly, that might have been a redemption for... I want to say it was for Save and Raid. Doom. We played Doom. The first Save and Raid was Doom Until It's Done. And we have to talk about Save and Raid for a bit. But as part of that, we were raising money for charity, and I had a incentive at, I forget the value I set it at, maybe like $50 or $100 or something like that. I would unseal a video game. So I had to unseal a couple of them, and that was one of the ones that somebody chose. I said, like, here's like 5 different games I could unseal, and somebody chose that one.
Cool. Were you surprised? I'm not surprised that people wanted you to describe the smell. That makes sense to me. Were you surprised by the number of comments, people asking you to lick the contents of the box?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I was surprised, because I expect that kind of thing from my viewers to a certain degree. But also, I think that might even come back a little bit to some of those point-and-click adventures, like Full Throttle, for example. It has like a coin interface where you click on a thing, and then an interface comes up. You select like the hand to grab it, or the foot to kick it, or the tongue to like talk to, or it's like a mouth with a tongue poking out. You can talk to things, but if it's like an object, he'll say like, "I'm not putting that in my mouth," kind of thing. So
right.
I don't know. They could draw inspiration from anything. Sometimes chat's just weird, and that's okay.
One thing you brought up, actually, sorry, you mentioned Save and Raid. What's that?
Yeah, Save and Raid. We got to talk about that. It's February this year. If you go to saveandraid.org, you should be able to see the times that it's running. And it's an event which was organized by a couple of streamers 3 years ago. I guess it was 3 years ago. We're raising money for charity, and the charity is SAVE, which is Suicide Awareness Voices of Education, and it's a really good cause. Obviously, I feel strongly about that particular cause, but to be able to participate in the event is also very cool. Basically, it's a relay marathon playing through a game series. So, first year we played through all of Doom, and the second year we played through all of Legend of Grimrock. The third year we played through Wasteland. No, why did I say Wasteland? It's Fallout. And this year we're doing Half-Life, the Half-Life series. So there's like, I think we have like over 50 people participating. It's going to be many hours of content, and like it's relayed. So basically each streamer streams for about an hour and then raids into the next channel, and they pick up the save game and start playing the game.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a really cool event, and obviously for a very good cause, but like the event itself is just so fun to participate in. A lot of memes come out of it, and it's very, very entertaining. So I would say if anybody's not heard of it, they should definitely go check out saveandraid.org and make sure you're following the event, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
With the relay format, have you ever like passed the baton, so to speak, and then you're watching the next one and you're like, no, this isn't how I was playing?
I know that has happened. I'm sure that has happened. I've never had that experience myself where I'm like, oh no, I hope you don't like screw this up or anything, because it really is all in fun, and like it's getting so much more organized too, like over the last couple of years. So now we have like a team of backseating sort of people who were just like, hey, if you're stuck, let me know and I'll tell you what to do next. So the game can continue to move forward. The streamers don't have to feel stressed about making progress as much as they just focus on making it a fun event. So yeah.
Something I glossed over a bit earlier, Grid Cannon Evolution, which was you were making like a digital version of a Tom Francis like in real life card game. Is that still in the works?
It's still in the works, in as much as I still have all the code for it and the assets for it. It's almost finished. I just had to do like the last little bit of polish and fix up some of the game modes and make them a bit more interesting. So honestly, I could probably spend like 2 weeks and finish it and publish it, but I still feel very negatively about that project, so I don't want to release it. I don't know.
Ask why?
Yeah, we can go deeper on that if you want.
Only if you're comfortable.
I mean, yeah, I'm okay with talking about it. It's just similar thoughts to what I was talking about earlier, where I just don't think it's I don't think it's representative of like what I can do, and I don't think it's representative of like my design sensibilities so much. And I know that if I release it, there's going to be a certain amount of time I'll have to spend supporting it and responding to different feedback and stuff like that. And I guess now it's not such a bad idea, but it's still in my mind, it still sits there as I probably shouldn't work on this. It still has that tag on it in my mind. So I don't know. I could go back to it and I could finish it. There's nothing really stopping me except for myself.
What made you in the first place? Why did you want to... Because you reached out and asked, do I have your blessing to make this? And Tom said yes.
Yeah. I just thought it was a cool idea, and I thought it was simple to do, which I guess I demonstrated because I put it together very quickly. I think it took me less than a week of actual time to put the whole thing together as it is at the moment. But I don't know. I feel like I let people down a bit, but I also feel like if I release it, I'm letting more people down somehow, because people will have to put up with the nonsense. I don't know. This is like more therapy now than anything else, because I really have to like think internally, like self-reflect on why I didn't finish it and why I didn't publish a lot of the projects I've worked on over the years. And it's like, realistically, I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like there's like, my mind is treating it sort of like a sunk cost, where you really should cut your sunk costs if you don't think that the return on investment is going to be worthwhile. But it's like a I don't know if I'm seeing the investment of my time and energy and like my mental well-being is going to be impacted negatively. Like, will I get the right return out of it? And I don't know.
This feels like maybe a segue to how has 7 Habits of Highly Effective People helped you?
Wow, you read the comments in the page, didn't you?
I did.
I read a lot of those kind of books over the years through my career. I think there's been a lot of things. Like, I won't go into like my whole like career history or anything like that, but there was a time when things like that were extremely important to me, to be able to like communicate with people and manage people and stuff like that. And I found that often the thing that was like making people stress and feel discouraged was they were worrying about the things that they shouldn't be worrying about. Like, if your job is to make a sandwich, you only really have to worry about like, do I have bread? Can I get bread? Okay, that's a problem. Or okay, that's not a problem, right? You don't have to worry about like, hey, is the wheat field being watered properly or something like that? That's not really your problem. So there's Covey has a thing called the circle of concern, which has like, I'm concerned about this, I can influence this, or I have direct control over this. Those are the 3 circles that get smaller each time, right? And so the circle of concern, yes, you can be concerned, you can raise your concerns, but you shouldn't really spend much time worrying about that stuff. When it's influence, so like I can tell you like, hey, I need you to do this because it's going to impact like my delivery schedule or something, then like, okay, and you can do something about that. But it's not really in my control, so I can let go of worrying about that. You've been told. And then obviously there's like me making the actual sandwich or whatever. Like, yes, I have to worry about every piece of this and put this together the right way and make sure that the people who need it get it. So, yeah, that's how 7 Habits of Highly Effective People has impacted me, I guess.
Cool. Well, that's something I should keep in mind because I'm certainly a worrier.
Yeah, me too. Obviously, I've talked about it. Sometimes you can apply things professionally, and then when you're doing stuff for yourself, it doesn't always work, right? That advice doesn't always work. And I think that is something that I need to learn from still.
You said something on Twitter last year that actually, I was like, oh my goodness, that's actually really interesting to me. You asked, it was simple enough. You asked, you held up like big box computer games, and you said, do you call these video games or do you call them computer games? And what I found so interesting for myself is I think up until a point, like when I was younger, I called them computer games. And now they're just video games. And I'm not sure when that changed or why.
I always called them computer games for the longest time. I don't remember when I started saying video games more often. I think it might have been when I started streaming. So, yeah. I thought it might have been like is this like a North America versus like King's English type difference? Or what? I don't know.
Well, I'm in Canada, so I mean, I use the King's English.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, it's like, I was always curious about the differences, like especially when I finally got more exposure to like just general gaming culture across the world. Like USA, North America always seemed to be like they would call it a video game rather than like a computer game. And I was wondering, like, is that because they mostly spend time on consoles? And I found that, like, in my experience, at least, certainly from like the early 2000s through like mid 2010s, the people I would talk to often would say like, yeah, I basically only ever played on console growing up. In later years, I've sort of encountered more people who were more like me from North America that spent more time gaming on PC, but I thought it must be something to do with that, like, consoles, video game, PC, computer game.
Yeah, well, I do think when I was younger, I think I differentiated, like I would refer to video games and computer games. And so that's why I'm kind of wondering, like, I guess maybe one day it became so one and the same that maybe now I just call them video games. Because, yeah, I don't think I would say, oh, that's a computer game now.
Yeah.
Even if I was like describing it, I'd probably be like, oh, that's on PC. Like the phrase computer game, I don't think would ever come up for me anymore.
Right. Yeah, I still like the idea of calling things computer game, but I often, when I'm talking about this category of entertainment, I'll say video game now, so...
I love that you have a
it's-
bunch of Gravis gamepads. I had a Gravis gamepad when I was a kid, and I think the Gravis Gamepad Pro, I don't think that gets the recognition it deserves, because that is the OG PlayStation controller, which everybody is, and I agree, I think it's like the best design for a controller, but it's the Gravis.
Yeah, it's the Gravis. Who did it first, Gravis or PlayStation?
I think Gravis. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but...
I don't know. I always just assumed that Gravis were just like copying whoever was the best they could find.
Now I gotta look
I
it up.
was so jealous of people owning Gravis gamepads, like, because I'd play like Jazz Jackrabbit or something. So many games would feature the Gravis gamepad in their menu or something like that, and it's like, oh man, I really want that controller. And my parents bought me like a gamepad, which honestly is probably actually better than a Gravis. But at the time, I was like, it's not a Gravis, but okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm confused here. The top results I have, I just put Gravis Gamepad Pro or PS1. First Reddit result, there's a reason Gravis copied the PSX controller. Second result, the Pro is a copy of the first PlayStation controller. Hey, it's me, and I'm just going to interrupt quickly here to give credit where it's due. The things I'm quoting here, one is from the Reddit subreddit, DOS Gaming, and I couldn't actually find which comment said the line that I quote. Maybe it's deleted, or maybe I'm just bad at finding things. And then the other one I quote there is from Vogons, another forum, and it is from the user Dersamler. Anyway, there seems to be some confusion here. A lot of different dates when I look this up come up, but I do think that PlayStation, it seems PlayStation came first, and there's just a lot of dates being thrown around when I look it up. But anyway, enjoy us also being confused about this. But then, under the People Also Ask section, the Gamepad Pro was released in 1991. Well, that's before PlayStation 1.
The Pro was released in 91?
Well, that's what this says, but it could be wrong.
I'm gonna Google this too now. Hang on a second. Hopefully my keyboard's not too noisy.
Oh, that's all right. Ambiance.
Where did on the Wikipedia page maybe?
It is computinghistory.org.uk. Says Gamepad Pro was released in 1991 by Advanced Gravis Computer Technology.
The Pro was released?
That's what it
Really?
says, but it looks... Yeah, that's what it says. And now I totally forgot about that little screw-in like joystick on it.
I mean, it kind of predicts the thumbstick a little bit, but not very well.
Right. Well, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I would like to dig into this some more. I always assumed that they just copy whoever the leader in the market was. I'm seeing like, okay, the Gravis was Wikipedia just says Gravis Gamepad was released in 91.
Oh, so
Not
maybe
the
that's
Pro.
like, yeah, that, okay.
Yeah. I don't know when the Pro was released.
Well,
But it's an interesting thought.
we both have work to do.
Yeah, we have to dig deeper now. No, but my Gravis collection, I started that collection because I was so obsessed with Gravis controllers when I was a kid. So
Yeah,
finally
awesome.
actually owning one, and then I had to collect more, and I still haven't finished collecting the Gravis collection, so it's going to be a while.
So going back to, you were talking about the differences, between North Americans and Australia, where you live. What games are and were popular in Australia? Like, what did you grow up, like, what was the game you wanted?
I'm sure it's similar, like, and it depends on, like, what area you pick, right? Because, like, the earlier you go, the differenter the games get. Differenter? Yes, that's definitely a word.
Sure.
It's like, I loved, like, for example, Mech Warrior, Earth Siege, those kind of games. I loved those. Battledrome was, like, so cool, which is like another Mech Warrior type game, but it's, like, arena-based. And that was, like, the first mech game that I ever owned was Battledrome. And later I got Mercenaries for Mech Warrior 2. which was cool. That was certainly a very different experience than Battledrome. But I don't know how much of the difference between like Australian market and US market there really is. A lot of the stuff like we got was UK publishers would publish magazines here, but we'd also get US distributed magazines as well. So my gaming library was just consisting of like all of the cover discs that you could get for a magazine.
Right.
Often the cheapest one on the shelf, because, you know, our parents didn't want to spend a lot of money on video games. Or computer games.
I used to think it was the coolest thing that you could get a game like in a magazine or even like a box of cereal.
Yeah, the box of cereal thing is so funny. I wish there was more like that. Mm-hmm. I've got was it Age of Empires 2, I want to say.
Oh, that's one of the best.
From a Kellogg's box. Yeah, it's quite a popular release. I think that's what it is. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure.
When are we going to get your Scorched Earth clone?
I just started working on it, like, a couple of days ago, and I was tinkering with it a little bit before I jumped on the call with you, and I just fixed up the terrain generation math, so it's all, like, generating numbers in the right range. So... I don't know. There's a lot of work to do. It depends how hard I go on like the design. The scope was pretty broad when I proposed it.
I think your sheet just said Scorched Earth clone.
It now says I'll pull it up and I'll tell you what it says right now. If I scroll down to game 2, this is like basically like a journal of like what I'm working on. And so it has all the journaling of like task lists and completed items for the sandwich game, and then it just goes to game 2 pretty much immediately. The current title for that section is Real-Time Scorched Earth Battle Royale.
Oh.
So it's a pretty big scope, just reading those words.
So it wouldn't be turn-based then? Is that the idea?
That's right, yeah. I want absolute chaos.
That sounds actually really good.
Yeah, it could be really fun. So my plan is to do this as a single-player experience first, and then look at adding netcode and stuff like that, if I can pull it off. So, yeah, and I have no idea when this is going to be done. It's like one of those things, it could be like 20 days, it could be like 90 days, it could be like 3 years. I have no idea right now. I need to feel out a little bit more with prototyping.
Is that something that we'll be able to follow the progress on? Like you'll be streaming it?
Yep. I've been streaming every day on that since I started. I won't be able to do the same I did for Sandwich Game. I started streaming Sandwich Game and I just finished it. Like I didn't skip a single day of streaming. So the entire process was almost caught on stream. I did lose day 1, which is unfortunate because day 1 was like pretty good stream, I think, because it outlined like what the channel was for, and it would have been nice to have a video to point back to and say just watch that, but that's not there. I forgot to turn the archiving feature on Twitch, so but after that, like, you know, I also did like I read through the entirety of one of like Ron Gilbert's articles about designing puzzle dependency charts. So it's from 2014. I can send you a link to that if you want to include it in your notes.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it was a good video. Too bad it's gone, I guess, because that was like the core of a lot of the design ideas I came up with for the Sandwich Game was in that video. Anyway, I don't know. I'm going on a bit of a sidetrack, but yes, I will be streaming as much of the process of creating the Scorched Earth clone as I can. I mean, it's not going to be a clone. It's going to be something quite different, but heavily inspired by Scorched Earth.
It sounds great. Which, I love that idea.
Yeah, it should be awesome. It should be a lot of fun. Because, you know, you played Worms, and I don't know if you played Lero back in the day or anything like that. But,
I know Worms. I don't know Lero.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. It's like more of a it's got a lot of different mechanics to it, but it's more of a single player, like a single character sort of experience. I don't know if I'd say hero focused, but yeah, it's sort of like think about Worms, but you can kind of move around and you kind of just have to worry about your one guy instead of like a whole team. So it's like that's you, and instead of that's your team kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, I don't know. It should be fairly chaotic, Scorched Earth style, visually, I think. I haven't changed my mind on that yet, but I do want to add things like buildings and trees and stuff like that to explode. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun to implement. There's a lot of ideas to implement, and it's like more of a programmery focused thing, which I like programming. I've always preferred to program my own tools and engines and stuff like that. So doing the sandwich game was like a good way to step back from that and just focus on production of the game design and assets, and only had like a very light amount of programming required.
We'll end on some more streaming stuff, but I did want to ask about your experience voice acting for a game for Twilight Oracle.
Yeah, I did. I helped out with the demo for that. I told Cosmic Void, hey, if you ever need any help with like, getting voice acting into a game or anything, let me know, because I'm interested in doing that as well. I mean, I'm just broadly interested in basically anything that you can do. I don't limit myself that much. So yeah, I just said, look, hey, if you're ever interested, and he reached out and said, could you do this? And we had a recording session on Discord and stuff, and I sent him through the files. We did a few edits and changes and retakes, but it was really fun. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Twilight Oracle, it looks pretty good. So that was just for the demo. They've got a more professional person to do the final version, which is probably a good thing.
Oh no.
I mean, it was good. Like, I'm not gonna say my effort was bad, but the guy they got is like very suitable to the role. So I think it was a good choice.
That's interesting. I never even realized there'd be kind of like a, for lack of a better term, a placeholder voice actor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Like sometimes you just want to have content in the game as soon as possible, especially if you can put out a demo with like fully produced, even if you have to go back and replace the voice of someone later on, that's good. Like during development of a lot of games, people would use like just developer voices, and sometimes, especially in the 90s, like they would just get released with the developers' voices. So, like System Shock's a classic example where all of those audio logs in System Shock 1 were almost completely just devs just doing their thing. So I think that's pretty cool, actually. I like that.
Cool. So yeah, last thing, and then I actually have to get to bed because it's late for me.
No worries.
But I thought I was thinking of Wildcard Wednesday, which is something you do on stream, where you kind of play a random game. But it got me thinking, and you mentioned earlier how much streaming has meant to you and the doors it's opened. So what has streaming introduced you to? Like, be it games, people, opportunities, whatever. What's something that stands out? You're like, wow, if it weren't for streaming, I wouldn't have known of this.
So much. There's like way too much to answer with this. I'll try and keep it short, but I guess I'll start with games that I'd never really bothered to experience, or I didn't know even existed in some cases. Has been really interesting to encounter new stuff like that. Wildcard Wednesday is the idea for that. When I initially launched that was like, hey, just tell me like a bunch of stuff and I'll play like 10-20 minutes of a game. And so I would play through like, maybe 10 or 20 games sitting there playing through them. And I got exposed to a lot of content. So some of them, like, I'd never played Moonstone: A Hard Day's Night before. And that's one that I got exposed to during a Wildcard Wednesday, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play through that. So as one example, but certainly the people, like, I didn't know many people on Twitch when I started streaming. I actually didn't even know if people streamed retro games. I was just like, I don't know, I guess I'll try it because I got nothing else to do. I was sick and we had the COVID lockdowns, and so I was just like, I'll try streaming. And I had to stream adventure games because I couldn't really play anything else. That was like anything that was moving on screen was causing me to feel too dizzy. So I did that, and then everything went from there. I met a lot of amazing people through Twitch, and the people I've met have just been very encouraging, and they're like great people. I definitely call them like good friends now too. So I continually meet new people as well, which is awesome. So it's great to get new connections through something like this. And it's makes up a huge part of my life now too. Like I stream regularly. I stream a lot during the week. So being able to make personal connections through that process and like being able to like connect with other people, other streamers and stuff like that, it's been a really positive impact on my whole life, I would say. Skills, I've developed a lot of skills because I never really messed around with OBS before, and now I'm pretty good at it and stuff like that too. So I don't know. There's tons of stuff I've learned. It's such a broad question. I don't know if I can answer it very accurately at this point. Like I think those things are. That's probably what I can say at the moment. I don't know.
Awesome. Well, people can connect with you on YouTube and Twitch. You are FractalMindMike. Anywhere else you want people to check you out?
FractalMindDev on Twitch as well. I'm on Twitter, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. I'm also on Instagram, but the Instagram is FractalMindMike_ because somehow my FractalMindMike account got locked and I can't get back in. So, I'm all over the place. I also have fractal-mind.com, but there's nothing there. Don't go there.
FractalMindMike, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.